بالإيجاب والقبول. So this is the chapter regarding nikah. So nikah is contracted by ijab and qubul, offer and acceptance. بلفظين يعبر بهما عن الماضي أو يعبر بأحدهما عن الماضي والآخر عن المستقبل مثل أن يقول زوجني فيقول زوجتك. By the two words that intended by is Madi, or intended by one of them is Madi and the other is future. Like he says, marry me, and he says, I married you.
Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is Qudoori Nikah. So Qudoori Nikah, we've done this last year in Fiqh al-Muyassar. So here, the main concepts we've covered, so it should be easy to go through these now. So nikah, as you guys know, can mean sexual intercourse, and it can also mean the marriage as well, contract. Nakaha yankihu. And this is something which, according to the Hanafis, is considered to be necessary if a person has sexual desire and fears they're going to commit fornication. Otherwise, it's considered to be something which is sunnah mu'akkada wa mustahab. So, an-nikahu yan'aqidu. Nikah is contracted. In yan'aqidu, in'aqad yan'aqidu, just like we did in bayt. So, nikah is contracted bil ijabi wal qubul, or qabul with the fatha. Qabul is more common. So, nikah is contracted with two statements, meaning a statement that means the offer and a statement that means the acceptance. So just like bayt, you have ijab and qabul. Likewise, in nikah, the cornerstones of the nikah are considered to be ijab and qabul. Now, this ijab and qabul, how does it have to be? So this is slightly different from bayt. So in this one it says بِلَفْظَيْن يُعَبَّرُ بِهِمَا عَنِ الْمَاضِي. So two lafaz, two such wordings, two such utterance. Yeah, lafaz. يُعَبَّرُ بِهِمَا. So ta'bir is given of both of these, ijab and qabul. The expression is given of both of these, عن الْمَاضِي, with a madi sigha. So either they both have to be madi. For example, like the man has to say to the woman, تزوجتك, and she says تزوجتك. Yeah. Or تزوجتك, and she says قبلت. Right, so something of that sort. Or she says it the other way around. So either both have to be madi. Or يعبر بأحدهما عن الماضي, or one of them is where you use the madi. Yeah, so in one of them the madi is used. والآخر عن المستقبل. So one of them madi is used, past. Like the man says to the woman, تزوجتك. And the other one says مستقبل أمر. Yeah, زوجني. Yes, تزوجني. So let's say the woman says to the man, تزوجني, and he responds and says قبلت, or تزوجتك. That's fine as well. Yeah, so in other words, you can have two madis, or one amr and a madi. Now this is like different from the bayt one. So if you go back, what does it say in bayt? Al-bay'u ينعقد بالإيجاب والقبول بلفظ الماضي. Something like that.
Okay. ينعقد بالإيجاب والقبول إذا كان بلفظ زي الماضي.
That's it. Nothing else. Yes. Yeah, in bayt you have to use two madis. Okay, but in nikah you're allowed to use two madis or an amr and a madi. Yeah, an amr and a madi.
Is that what they mean by the mustaqbal? They actually mean the amr.
Amr, yeah. Mustaqbal, because that's basically, you know, the only amr that has the specific meaning. Because mudari has the meaning of madi, mudari, hal and mustaqbal. Okay, والآخر المستقبل. Yeah.
So you know can the woman do the offer?
Yeah.
And the man is that allowed as well?
That's right. So مثل أن يقول زوجني, like if the woman says to the man, marry me off. Like the woman says to the man, marry me off. And فيقول, and he says, زوجتك, I've married you off. Yeah. So any type of wording that has this meaning. Now in today's times, we don't necessarily need this, because this is based upon the nature of the language in them days. So the nature of the Arabic language was that you could only get into a contract with someone if you were absolutely certain about it, and the only way you can be certain if you use a past sigha. And the reason we allow the mustaqbal to be used is because when people get married, they ask others to marry them off. Like a woman might say to a man, can you find me a husband? Marry me off to a man. Yeah, so that's why in this kind of situation this would be permissible. But otherwise it's all based down to the culture and the language. So in English language, we don't necessarily have to use past verbs. We can use present verbs as well, as long as we use wording that has the meaning of marriage. Okay, go on.
Okay, so ولا ينعقد نكاح المسلمين إلا بحضور شاهدين حرين بالغين عاقلين مسلمين أو رجل وامرأتين عدولا كانوا أو غير عدول أو محدودين في قصده. And nikah of Muslims is only contracted by the presence of 2, 3 adult sane Muslims, or 1 man and 2 women, whether they be just or they not be just, or that they be given the hurt of slander.
Okay, so next, ولا ينعقد نكاح المسلمين. So Muslimain or Muslimina, you can say over here. So the Muslims nikah, or 2 Muslims nikah, will not be considered to be valid, meaning there's shart as well. The rukn of nikah is ijab and qabul, right? That's the rukn. But rukns cannot work if there's not sharts there. Yeah, so sharts helps the rukns to work. Just like when you have salat, you have rukns of salat, arkan, and you have shart of it as well. So the arkan of nikah are 2, ijab and qabul, and the shart of nikah is that you have to have these conditions there. So Muslims nikahs will not be valid except in the presence, bihudur, in the presence of shahidain. So hudur means presence. Yeah. So hadara yahduru, shahidain, 2 witnesses. So there has to be 2 witnesses. So for example, like if Zayd says to Zainab, tazawwajtuki, and she responds qabiltu, that nikah will not be completed. Like let's say 90% of it's done, 10% is waiting. And how do we complete that 10%? You need to have 2 witnesses who heard both statements. And these 2 witnesses have conditions as well. What are the conditions? Hurrain, the shahidain have to be hurrain, they have to be free. So if the witnesses were slaves, again, this nikah would not be completed. So they have to be free. Number 2, balighain, they have to be adults. So if 2 children were to be present and to hear the two parties, then the nikah would not be completed. Aqilain, number 3, the 2 witnesses have to be aqil, have to be sound in mind, sane, right? So if they're majnoon, then it won't be counted. And the last one is that they either has to be 2 men present. The witnesses either have to be 2 Muslim men, or 1 Muslim man and 2 women. Yeah, or rajulin wa imra'ataini. Yeah, rajulin wa imra'ataini. That's it. These are the conditions. So hurrain, free. Balighain, adults. Aqilain, sane. And then either 2 men or 1 man, 2 women. Yeah, that's how the witnessing needs to be.
So you know above it, it says khilaf al-Shafi'i. What's the opinion there? And it says, it says 1 man and 2 women.
Yeah, I don't have that. I'm not sure. Does it say anything in the hashia?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, check it.
It says It says, وقال الشافعي لا تقبل شهادة النساء في النكاح والطلاق والعتاق والوكالة.
Okay, maybe according to Shafis they don't have that. I'm not too sure, but according to Hanafis, women are allowed to participate in all forms of witness, like we've done in the chapter of Shahadat. Yeah, if you remember last year, we mentioned this, and we said that they're allowed to participate in all types of witnessing, except for the witnessing when it comes to hudud. Yeah, hudud they can't. Okay, now there's a question over here, which is that in Shahadat, if there is someone who has a criminal record, certain types of criminal record ban them from witnessing or participating as witness. So what we say is that are they allowed? So let's say there's someone who has a criminal record and has been banned from witnessing in court, not allowed to be a witness in court. Is this person allowed to be a witness in nikah? Is it the same? So the Hanafis say no. The Hanafis say that the witnessing is of two types. One is what we call to be able to witness something, to qualify to witness, and one is to be able to give testimony in court. So a person who can give testimony in court has the ability to witness and can give testimony, but a person who can only witness can't give testimony in court. Yeah, so for example, like these people who have a criminal record, they're allowed to witness things, but if they were to be called in court and ask them, so for example, let's say there's a guy who has a criminal record and the courts have banned him from giving witness, like Allah says in the Quran about people who slander other people and accuse them of fornication. Allah says, وَلَا تَقْبَلُوا لَهُمْ شَهَادَةً أَبَدًا. Don't accept witnessing from them. So these people, let's say they went for a nikah. There's two of them, and both of these guys have been accused by the courts of slandering someone, and their witnesses are not accepted in court anymore. So these two people, if they were to attend a nikah of this man and this woman, would that man and woman's nikah be considered to be complete, fulfilled? So we say yes, it will. Right? Because for a nikah to be fulfilled, all you need is that the witnesses are those four things: hurrain, balighain, aqilain, muslimain, etc. That's it. That's only those four things. And whether they can give testimony in court or not isn't necessary. So that's why we say udulan kanu, whether udulan is the jam' of adil. So whether the witnesses are udul, meaning upright, or ghair udul, or not upright. So whether they're upright or not doesn't really matter. Right? The witnessing in the nikah will be valid. أو محدودين في قذف, or even if these two people have been accused, have been sentenced or accused في قذف, regarding slander. So if you're accused regarding slander, like I said, your name is struck off the witnessing, so you're not allowed to give testimony in courts again. Now let's say if this happens, so these two people witnessed Zayd and Zainab's nikah. What's going to happen now? So the nikah is valid, but the problem is if many years later they have to go to court and they have to give testimony. Now let's say it's an argument happens between Zayd and Zainab, and they have to prove that they did get married. The courts will not listen to these two people's testimony. That's the only problem. Yeah. Everyone understand? Okay, go on.
Okay. فإن تزوج مسلم ذمية بشهادة ذميين جاز عند أبي حنيفة وأبي يوسف، وقال محمد لا يجوز إلا أن يشهد شاهدين مسلمين. So if a Muslim marries a Zimmi with the testimony of two Zimmis, Imam Hanifa and Imam Yusuf say it's allowed, and Imam Muhammad said it's only allowed if it's only allowed that two Muslim witnesses give testimony.
Yeah, it's only allowed when he makes two Muslims witness. So ashhada yushhidu, to make a witness. Okay, so over here again he says new masala. إذا تزوج مسلم ذمية. So we know the conditions for two Muslims who get married, right? If they have witnesses, the witnesses must be Muslim. For two Muslims, the witnesses must be Muslim. All right, that's done. So therefore, if two kafirs, two non-Muslims, Christian, Jew, mushrik, whatever, they were to be present in the ceremony of these two people, their witnessing will not be considered to be relevant or valid. Well, let's say a Muslim man is allowed to marry a Christian or Jewish woman. Yeah, that's allowed, guys. So let's say Zayd goes and marries, let's say, Jane or someone who's a Christian. He marries her. That marriage is allowed. فَإِن تَزَوَّجَ مُسْلِمٌ ذِمِّيَّةً. If a Muslim man was to marry a dhimmi woman, a non-Muslim woman who's living in the Islamic State, بِشَهَادَةِ ذِمِّيَّيْن. So they all agree that if two Muslims were to witness their marriage, that marriage is considered to be valid. But if two non-Muslims were to witness the marriage, when we say witness the marriage, it simply means to hear the ijab and qabul. That's all we're talking about. Right? They don't have to be there for long. They just have to hear, did the ijab and qabul take place? Did they hear it? That's fine. So two non-Muslims came and they witnessed the marriage of Zayd and Jane. Is that permissible? According to Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Abu Yusuf, yes, it's permissible. وقال Muhammad, and Imam Muhammad, he says no, it's not permissible unless he makes two Muslims participate, or one Muslim man and two Muslim women. Right, that's the conditions that we mentioned for Muslims earlier on. The same conditions Imam Muhammad takes here. He says you can't allow this. Okay, go on.
ولا يحل للرجل أن يتزوج بأمه ولا بجداته من قبل الرجال والنساء ولا ببنته ولا ببنت ولده وإن سفلت ولا بأخته ولا ببنات أخته ولا بأمته ولا بخالته ولا ببنات أخيه ولا بأم امرأته التي دخل بابنتها أو لم يدخل. So it's not allowed for a man to marry his mother or nor his grandmothers from the side of the men and the women, and nor his daughters and nor his granddaughters and below, and nor his sisters and nor his nieces, nor his paternal aunties, nor his maternal aunties, and his other nieces, and not the mother of his wife that he has consummated the marriage. Ibnatiya, by entering her daughter, or not
having intimacy. So entering means having sexual intercourse.
Okay, intercourse with his daughter, with her daughter, or he didn't have intercourse. Okay,
so this is the next masla now. So now we've done what's the rukn of bayt of nikah. We've done that. What's the shart of nikah? We've even done that. And we even answered a question, which is, what if a Muslim man and a non-Muslim woman get married? Can the witnesses be non-Muslim? So we even answered that one. Now we're looking at the masla of who is it permissible for a man to marry? So what type of women can he marry? So this is based upon the verse of the Quran, Hurrimat alaykum ummahatukum wa banatukum, and so forth. So we know, remember in Fiqh al-Miyas we mentioned 9 categories of women that a man is not allowed to marry. Some of them are forever and some of them are simply temporary. So لا يحل, it is not halal للرجل, for a man, أن يتزوج, for him to marry بأمه, his mother. Why? Because حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم. ولا بجداته, and nor with his grandmothers, from his mother's side, من قبل الرجال, from his father's side, والنساء, and from his mother's side. So you can't marry any of the grandmothers, great grandmothers, and so forth. This is obviously again because of the agreement of the scholars, ijma of the scholars. Not because of that verse, but the ijma. We can't take that verse because if you remember when we did haqiqa and majaz, we said if you take the haqiqi meaning of you can't take the majaz at the same time. You can't do combination of haqiqa and majaz together. Haqiqa and majaz cannot be combined. So either you're going to take the haqiqah or you're going to take the majaz. So the Hanafis here take to mean the haqiqah mother, and from this verse they don't take grandmothers from this verse, they take it from the ijma of the scholars. Wala bi bintihi, nor can he marry his daughter. Yeah, not allowed to, because the Quran says hurimat al ummahatukum wa banatukum, so you can't marry your daughter. Wala bi binti waladihi, nor can you marry the son's daughter or the daughter's daughter, yeah, and so forth downwards. Yeah, so anything that's descending female, you can't marry them. Again, where do we get this from? Ijma. Yeah, so the daughter is from the Quran. Wala bi bintihi wala bi binti waladihi wa in safulat or safalat. Yeah, even if it goes down. I don't know in the Hashia if you guys got it there, but you can read it more there about this ijma issue.
How far down does it go?
Yeah, obviously practically there's only a certain limited number of granddaughters that a person can have. Yeah, granddaughter, great granddaughter. I think after that people die. They can't, because technically, if a person was to get married as soon as they became the age of puberty and have children, then they'd become, let's say, a woman or a man, he reached puberty at the age of 12. So he had children at the age of 12. Then technically his children can have children at the age of 12 as well. So when he's 24, he's going to be a granddad. And then when they are in 12 years' time, they can have, so 36, when he's 36, he can be a great-granddad. And then 48, he can be a great-great-granddad. Technically, if a person was to be very specific, they can achieve that. Yeah, but practically, after you rarely get great-great-grandchildren. Yeah. So, وَإِن سَفَلَتْ وَلَا بِأُخْتِهِ, nor can you get married to his sister, because the Quran says, أَخَوَاتُكُمْ, you can't marry your أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ وَبَنَاتِكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتِكُمْ. وَلَا بِبَنَاتِ أُخْتِهِ, nor can you marry the banat of the ukht, because the Quran says that. Yeah, so أَخَوَاتِكُمْ وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ. Yeah, so the banat of the akh, the brother's daughters, which we call nieces, and the sister's daughters, which we call nieces as well. So the banat of the ukht, daughters of the sister. وَلَا بِعَمَّتِهِ, nor can he marry his amma, yeah, his paternal auntie. Yeah, because the Quran says وَعَمَّاتِكُمْ, ammat, your ammat, you can't marry your ammat. وَلَا بِخَالَتِهِ, you can't marry his khala, who is maternal, mother's sister. Can't marry them as well. وَلَا بِبَنَاتِ أَخِيهِ, yeah, nor can he marry the banat of his brother, like we mentioned, the daughters of his brother. Yeah, so basically it's everyone that is immediately around him. Yeah, his mother is around him, his daughter, his sister, his aunties, his nieces, all those immediately around, you can't marry those. وَلَا بِأُمِّ امْرَأَتِهِ الَّتِي دَخَلَ بِبِنْتِ. Now these are the biological ones stopped here now. The biological prohibitions stop here. Now it's talking about the in-laws. So there's 4 in-laws you can't marry, like we said. You can't marry your mother-in-law, you can't marry your daughter-in-law, you can't marry your mother-in-law, you can't marry your stepdaughter, you can't marry your daughter-in-law, and you can't marry your stepmother. Yeah, stepmother, stepdaughter, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. Those 4 you can't marry. وَلَا بِأُمِّ إِمْرَأَتِهِ, nor with the mother of his wife. So let's say Zayd gets married to Zainab. So Zainab has a mother. So Zayd cannot marry Zainab's mother, his mother-in-law. التي دخل ببنتها أو لم يدخل, which he had entered his daughter. So entered with his daughter in Arabic is majaz for sexual intercourse. Yeah. دخل ببنتها or kinaya. So in Arabic it simply means jima', who he had jima' with sexual intercourse with. Or lam yadkhul, or he didn't have sexual intercourse with. Yeah, so dakhala doesn't literally mean he entered upon her. So why is it saying this for, and it doesn't say anywhere else? The reason being is because in the Quran, where Allah says, what's the verse? وَأَخَوَاتُ عَمَّاتُ خَالَاتِكُمْ وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ وَأُمَّهَاتُكُمُ اللَّاتِي أَرْضَعْنَكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُمْ مِنْ رَضَاعَةِ وَأُمَّهَاتُ نِسَائِكُمْ. What did it say?
وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُمْ.
Yeah. So look, وَأُمَّهَاتِكُمْ, Allah says ummahatikum, your mothers, but there's no mention of sexual intercourse. So logically we understand that the marriage itself that's taken place between the husband and wife, that marriage itself is the reason why a man cannot marry his mother-in-law. However, because in the other verse it says وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي هُجُورِكُمْ, your stepdaughters who are in your care. What's after that?
من نسائكم اللاتي دخلتم بهن.
دخلتم بهن. Over there it says دخل. So if you marry a woman and she has a daughter from a previous marriage, that daughter only becomes haram upon you the first time you have sexual intercourse with the mother. So if you don't have sexual intercourse with the mother, say you married Zainab and you didn't have sexual intercourse with Zainab, then you divorced her or she died, whatever. Then you divorced her rather. So you divorce her, you're allowed to marry Zainab's daughter. Because the Quran says, dakhaltum, you have to have sexual intercourse with the mother in order for the daughter to be haram upon you.
Ustad, is that at the same time or at any given time?
So this is obviously, anytime. Anytime. Okay. So this is why this masla is mentioned over here. But the other way around, if you marry Zainab, her mother-in-law, right? Her mother-in-law doesn't become haram because the Quran didn't say dakhaltum. Because the Quran didn't say dakhaltum. So as soon as she's your mother-in-law, you cannot have sexual intercourse. You cannot get married to the mother-in-law forever. Everyone understand the difference? Okay, so this is why it says, وَلَا بِأُمِّ امْرَأَتِهِ, nor with the mother of his wife, الَّتِي دَخَلَ بِبِنْتِهَا, whether he has had sexual intercourse with her daughter or has not had sexual intercourse with her daughter, meaning, i.e. his wife. Okay, have you done the next one?
No.
Okay, go on.
ولا بابنة امرأته التي دخل بها سواء كانت في حجره أو في حجر غيره ولا بامرأة أبيه ولا أجداده ولا بامرأة ابنه ولا بني أولاده ولا بأمه من الرضاعة ولا بأخته من الرضاعة, and no with his wife's daughter that the wife that he had intercourse with, whether she be in his care or she be in the care of someone else, and nor the wife of his dad, nor his granddad, so the wife of his granddad, and nor the wife of his son, and his grandchildren, so nor the wife of his grandchildren, and nor his mother from breastfeeding, and nor from his sister, with his sister from breastfeeding.
Okay, so وَلَا بِابْنَةِ إِمْرَأَتِهِ, nor can he marry the daughter of his wife, which we call stepdaughter. Yeah, so you can't marry his stepdaughter. التي دخل بها, with whom he has had sexual intercourse. So if he has had sexual intercourse with Zainab, he's not allowed to marry Zainab's daughter, meaning his stepdaughter. But if he has not had sexual intercourse with Zainab, he can marry the stepdaughter. سواء كانت في حجره, whether she, the daughter, كانت goes back to the stepdaughter, whether the stepdaughter is in his care. Hijr literally means like care, like the lap. Whether she is in his lap or في حجر غيره, or in the care of someone else. So for example, like maybe the daughter is living with the other father, her biological father. Yeah, so Zayd is not paying for anything for her. He's not taking care of her. Why is this for? Why are they saying this? Because in the Quran, when Allah says وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُمْ, your stepdaughters who are in your care, that in your care, do we take that as meaning khas? Do we take that as meaning specific, that they have to be in your care? And if they're not in your care, then you can marry them. So all the scholars say no. They say no, this statement is just something which we call a qaid ittifaqi. It's a coincidental statement. It's just coincidental. Like sometimes we say things like, oh, so and so has a a small baby. Yeah, so when they say small baby, it doesn't mean like it's small, as in normally babies are big and this one's small. No, small is literally emphasis for baby. So the same thing over here. So when Allah says fi hujurikum, that doesn't necessarily mean that if it's not in your hujur, if it's not in your care, then you can have you can marry them. No. Did you read this? وَلَا بِإِمْرَاتِ أَبِيهِ وَلَا أَجْدَادِهِ, no with the woman of his father. So any woman of his father, any woman, his father, so he has a father. Let's say Zayd has a father called Khalid. Khalid has got married to a woman. Any woman that his father gets married to, it doesn't matter if his father in his lifetime marries, let's say, hundreds of women and divorces them or they die. He's not allowed to marry those women. Yeah, so he's not allowed to marry those women. Any woman that his father marries. Wala ajdad.
What about like any woman? Let's say, like God forbid, but let's say if he fornicated with other women, can you marry those women?
No, I'm not allowed. Yeah, so just like in Qudoori we mentioned, was it in Usul Shashi? We mentioned about. Okay, so look at this then. So so the ajdad as well. So grandfather, Zayd's grandfather married women. Those women he's not allowed to marry. So anyone the father married, grandfather married, great-grandfather married, all those women now technically become like his mothers or his grandmothers. Yeah, stepmothers. So any of his stepmothers, he's not allowed to marry a stepmother, even if there was no sexual intercourse or anything. He's not allowed to marry them. Wala bimra'ati ibn. Go on, next one.
Yeah, I've read this stuff.
Okay, wala bimra'ati ibnihi, no with the woman of his son. So the woman of his son would be daughter-in-law. Yeah, so daughter-in-law. Okay, so I think I made a mistake earlier when I said in-laws. I said stepdaughter, isn't it? Stepdaughter. Yeah. Is that because of in-laws? Yeah, so okay, so this is it's supposed to be then, in that case, supposed to be daughter-in-law then. Yeah, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, I said four, didn't I? Yeah, I was correct. That's right.
You said four. So.
Okay, I said four, that's fine. So, okay, so this is the next one. So, wala bi imra'ati ibnihi, no with the wife of his son. What does wife of his son mean? Daughter-in-law. So, Zayd has a son. Yeah, Zayd has a son called Mahmud. Mahmud gets married to, let's say, Fatima. Fatima now is the daughter-in-law of Zayd. Yeah, so he's not allowed to marry his own daughter-in-law. Yeah, that's the Quran says as well. Yeah, wala. What's the verse? فَإِن لَمْ تَكُونُوا دَخَلْتُمْ بَيْنَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ. And then Halail is the jam of Halila, wife. Halailu abnaikum, the wives of your sons. So you can't marry the wives of your sons. Wala bani awladihi. Yeah, so wala bani awladihi, and the same going downwards. So this is based on ijma. Yeah, so the Quran says you can't marry the daughter-in-law of your sons, and ijma says you can't marry the daughter-in-law of your grandsons. Yeah, so wala bani awladihi, nor the children, nor the daughters, the wives of your sons.
So what about if you have a stepson? He's not your actual son. But can you marry his wife?
So did you have sexual intercourse? So your stepson has a wife.
Yeah, and
then you can. Yeah, then you can marry.
Oh, okay, so he's only like your biological son.
Biological, yeah. ولا بأمه من الرضاع. How much is left? Okay, we'll stop there.
These two stuff, the next two.
Okay, ولا بأمه من الرضاعة, no can you marry your mother from breastfeeding. We'll stop there. We'll continue this tomorrow, inshallah.